Hi, I'm Ross from Next.io, and today I have the absolute pleasure. I'm with Finnplay. I'm in Espoo. Did I butcher that?
It was close.
Which is next to Helsinki, and I'm in their salubrious offices. This is Finnplay, and I'm joined by two experts in the Finnish market, Jaakko and Brian. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with me today.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming.
So let's get straight into it. Let's talk a little bit about this market, why it's so exciting. First of all, the timing in the marketing opening. Would you just walk us through kind of where it's at now and just a recap for our listeners?
We are now in end of October. We are expecting that the law will pass through Parliament rather shortly. So how we get there or here? We started in 2022, we have had monopoly as long as I can remember. And at that moment, actually Veikkaus came out publicly and said that, hey, our channelization rate is closing into 50%, and started asking that, okay, should it be time to move towards licensed market? And the political shift after that one was rather a shift. Government at that time did a pre-study or ordered a pre-study on what are the options for the market. And basically they gave 3 options. One was licensing, second one was continuing on the monopoly model, and third one was continuing with the monopoly model but with stricter restrictions. And of course, there was no that, okay, you need to go with this one, but if you read the report, the largest part of the report was about the licensing model. The second largest was maybe on the Norwegian model, so the hint was there. And then we had elections in 2023, and after the election, the governmental program included, a statement that the iGaming market will be licensed, and the licensed market will open on 1st of January 26.
Just to let you guys know, it is the end of October, and Finnplay have done a great job of reminding us that, because as I came in the office earlier, there was wonderful Halloween decorations. But Jaakko, could you just go through, a couple of those dates again of exactly when these things are looking to come to play?
Yeah, so now we are expecting that the law will go to Parliament floor, so to say, during November and come out from there still during this year. And at the moment, they will fill the government program promise, and the licensing application will start of January next year, start of 26. And then there will be a period of 1 year for the licensing applications, and the licensed market actually will open on 1st of January 27. There is a bit of, rumors on the market, on the street, so to say, that the market opening might be pushed by a few months. At the moment, I'm not believing. Well, let's say that I'm 95% certain that the 1st of January 27 will hold. And then one more date is 1st of January 28, when they will require a B2B license from every B2B provider in the fair.
Great. I want to get more into that with you, but could you just explain a little bit what is the driving shift? What's pushing this, and why now?
As I said, the main driver is that at the moment we have a monopoly, but we don't have a monopoly at the same time. The monopoly is said to have around 50% of the online gaming, and even lower percentage on these games that will be part of the licensing scheme. I have seen numbers or estimates even as low as 30%. I think that's the one of the main driving forces, so that they want to get the channelization rate up to 90 or so percentages, and they see that the licensed market is the way to get there.
What is your speculation on the timing? What, in your eyes, is realistic and optimistic?
We are now sitting here in end of October, as you can see from the Halloween and the weather outside. But in general, I feel that the timeline is realistic. Big risk from my eyes is the fact that now the law is not there yet. and 1st of January is around the corner. But then at the same time, kind of you can see that there is preparations kind of being done by the authorities. There is some of the, let's say, decrees have already been sent for consultation as well as even to European Union notification. For example, how you apply a license has been already been notified by the European Union. So they are making steps towards that the timelines will hold. And that's kind of that's maybe one of the things that is, let's say, typical for us Finns. Kind of when we say something, we also will follow it up.
Brilliant. Brian, everything commercial at Finnplay. With so much going on, would you be able to share with us how you are preparing for this internally for the future of your clients?
Well, obviously, being the only platform located in Finland, this is our home turf, and this is something we've been watching very carefully now for more than a few years. We've known this has been coming. And so it's very important for us that we're prepared as a company, because we expect we will be the largest platform player in the market when the market opens. And we're already in many commercial discussions with operators who will be entering the market on our platform. So what has that meant for us? Really, it's meant building our team. So we have been very diligently adding headcount and improving our processes as well internally to prepare ourselves for what we know is going to be a big push on resources. Because at the same time, of course, we have operators in other jurisdictions around the world, and we have to ensure that our successes in Finland don't come at the cost of our ability to deliver good service to our customers in other areas. So we've been very hard at work, and we continue. We know that all through the remainder of 2026, we're going to continue to strengthen the team in advance of the market opening in 2027.
I'd like to move on, just sort of hitting on that a bit, marketing here and the Finnish culture. Now, in general, not just sort of the iGaming world, I was told that the Finnish are very different. Now, I've been here less than 24 hours. You've been here, Brian, for 20 years, and you're Canadian, is that right?
I'm Canadian, although now I guess I'm half Finnish.
What could you just say sort of in general about sort of the Finnish culture from a foreigner coming in?
Well, I'll compare it perhaps to the surrounding cultures in the region. So Finland is, as a culture, the people are very humble, extremely down to earth and kind, but also very private. And some mention of the language earlier, and I think this will become very important for future brands coming into this market. It is a very difficult language. I can say, after 20 years of working really, really hard, I can have a conversation in Finnish, and that's about it. So maybe I'm not the best example, but it has been called the second hardest language in the world. What that means is for brands coming into the market, it's really important to work with somebody local to get your messaging on point, because just translations alone, please don't rely on Google Translate. It's going to make a lot of embarrassing situations for you. I've lived that life. I don't recommend it for a professional brand coming into Finland. You definitely want somebody who knows the local culture and knows how the language works. And also the Finnish mentality, which I think is, it's not so bling bling. We were talking earlier about expensive watches getting stolen on the street in London. The Finns don't like to wear their wealth. It's not something that they want to show publicly and brag about. I've been told and seen, many times you'll have, say, a wealthy family that has a very modest house in the city, but a beautiful cabin that nobody sees out in the wilderness in the north of Finland, where they're not going to be seen as showing off or bragging and putting their wealth. And I think that will translate into how you need to market in Finland.
I agree. We are really humble people, and we have a lot of these sayings which kind of basically plays us down. One of these is exactly related to this. It goes like, kel onnen on, se onnen kätkököön. So that one who has the luck or wealth in this case should hide it. That's kind of a really common saying in Finland. That's how we kind of we think on the surroundings of us.
Could you say that again?
Kel onnen on, se onnen kätkököön. Yeah,
I'm not going to try, Brian.
That's a test for you in a few hours.
I'm not going to do that on camera, but I'll give it a whirl after.
Okay,
I can do an easier saying. So this I've often talked about, because if you want to understand a culture, it's important to learn the words that language has that no other language has. So, for example, the Eskimos, they had 100 words for snow, different kinds of snow, because it was really relevant if you were, waking up in Greenland and you wanted to know what kind of boots you should put on. Is it the hard snow with the crunchy stuff on top, or the wet, sloppy snow? So they had words for this. In our culture, we just say snow, basically. In Finland, they have many different words for hangover. So if you're a Finn, it's very important, and I will just tell my personal favorite, because everybody seems to relate to this. It's the Morkkis. So the Morkkis, can you say the word?
Morkkis.
Very good. This is the hangover you have when you wake up the next morning and you don't exactly recall what you did the night before, but you know you should be ashamed of it.
I can relate.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think everybody can.
So the Finnish language is full of these beautiful idioms that are quite unique to Finland. And I think that anybody coming in here for the iGaming industry would do well to kind of know those and lean into those to become familiar and really kind of situate yourself in the market.
I definitely think these are the golden nuggets. So let's get back into iGaming so the Finnish players. I've heard they're unique, but I don't understand why. What makes them different to the other Nordics? Or
I think that there is a few things. First of all, we have been taught to gamble since we were young. Kind of there is this Suomalainen voittaa aina, Finn always Finn, which is kind of the statement that we have grown up with. I'm not 100% sure, but I kind of seem to recall that actually gambling was allowed in Finland when I was in high school, so between 12 and 15 years. And it was opened right next to our school, and I recall kind of putting a gambling ticket on that time. So that's kind of, it's built into our culture, the gambling in really, really early stages. That's let's say, that the gambling culture. And then the other side of the culture is that the kind of marketing. Well, we spoke a bit on the Finnish culture. You really need to understand the culture in order to succeed in here. And then the other side is the let's say, trust. We spoke earlier about that, trust is something that you typically earn. I think in Finland it's the other way around. You have trust until you lose it. Kind of there has been these studies on that, if you drop a wallet in the center of the city, Finland is always topping the list on kind of how many wallets are given back to some kind of place that you can collect those.
Is that because you guys don't carry much money in the wallet?
No, it's just kind of even that happened even when the cash was king, so to say.
Oh, right.
It can be. My 16-year-old
That's
kid
amazing.
had, or when he was 16, had lost his wallet in the forest with quite a lot of cash. And 2 days later, it was returned with exactly the same amount of cash. Find me another country where that happens. Not even Canada.
I think only I would know Dubai. And maybe that's because the penalty for doing that is so high.
It could be. No, here it's more just in the kind of
people.
honesty of the
Sorry, Jaakko.
Yeah, but that kind of continuing with the trust, it goes that the brands that are here, they need to kind of live up to that trust. Kind of all, it's not just the kind of the technical solutions, it's also the kind of the customer service and the rules and how you kind of, if the customer complains, how you handle that, everything kind of, you have the trust until you lose it. And it's also easy to lose in here. So you need to be kind of building your operations around that.
And on that trust and about the former monopoly, or soon to be former monopoly, I think that they engendered that trust over decades and decades of the way that gambling was marketed in Finland. Because like Jaakko used this expression, every Finn wins. If you grew up watching TV here looking at Veikkaus ads, then you saw that even if you play the weekly lottery and you don't win, that's quite okay, because the money is going to a good place. It's going to, Ronald McDonald House Children's Charities, or it's going somewhere that will do good for society. And so that has built, and by the way, I had that same experience growing up in Canada and Ontario, where the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation was also a monopoly, and Ontario itself is actually larger than Finland, and running really similar kinds of messaging about the kind of charitable nature of the business as well. So that has built this trust towards gambling that is, I think, quite unique in the world. And I don't know exactly how to incoming brands will position that, but I have a suspicion that this kind of obscene messaging about, hey, play this game and you're going to be a multi-millionaire with gold coins flying everywhere and golden cars, and that may not play as well in Finland as it does in other areas. Maybe something more related to trust, or even working with local organizations and sponsorships and things like that is going to be a better way to showcase your brand and earn or keep, let's say, the trust of the Finnish people.
So the marketing messaging, your advice would be needs to be more authentic rather than push, bonus. Is that kind of...
I think that will play better in Finland. This is now my personal opinion, and I'm living on the B2B side of the business, but we've been doing this a long while, and I think knowing what I do as a foreigner coming into Finland about the kind of marketing messaging that plays here, it's quite different than when I've been, for example, selling to the United States. Yeah. There, it's all, you're selling the dream. Everything is big promise and over the top. In Finland, that is seen as kind of obnoxious and even a little bit rude or offensive.
Yeah, well, you can just look on the current TV advertisement, and there is even actually one TV advertisement which is making fun of the kind of US selling style.
The marketing side, like that's very clear on the messaging and the advice. What I'd like to ask you, Brian, is your commercial. So you're actually dealing with companies at high level on an individual basis. Now, it takes time to build the trust with your clients. Have you got sort of any examples or advice on, what does that B2B side look like here?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, I can't name any names, but I can say at least as a very relevant current example, there's a brand, a very well-known international brand that we are now finalizing discussions with for Finland. And that discussion started 4 years ago with me at a iGaming show somewhere, probably at an after party, just a quick chat on a different project. And it has taken 4 years of communication and relationship building to get to the point where we're now doing this together. Because 4 years ago, Finland wasn't even on the horizon. So it was for something else back then that didn't work out, and then something else that didn't work out. But every time it didn't work out, we continued to work together in a really positive and comfortable way. And that built trust. So in my experience, and I've been doing this going on 7 years now for Finnplay, there are no new partnerships that we've engaged in, no new operators we've brought to the platform that didn't come through a series of really solid referrals, people that know our reputation, because especially where we are, we're just in the regulated markets, and compliance is extremely important. And we've been doing this going on 16 years now, and I'm proud to say that Finnplay has a perfect record of compliance in all the markets where we are working. So if you're an operator and you are, or an investor, you're thinking to open a new brand in a particular jurisdiction, and you're sniffing around who's got a good reputation in that market, the places where we work, we always come out on top because we have a good, perfect record, so people know they can trust us. I'm not usually competing on things like price or even features, to be honest. I mean, of course, we have all the top features that you need to run a modern professional casino or betting site, but the more important thing is this trust factor. Do you trust the people that you're working with? Do they have a solid reputation? That because falling out of compliance in a regulated market creates big problems for an operator really quickly, and I'm proud to say that we have a record of never doing that.
It's always fun to hear that, okay, your commercial director is not kind of competing on fairness, but that's kind of, I think that is the point, kind of that I love cars. I kind of like to take examples from the car industry, and you have these kind of, every major car brand has they have 4 wheels, they have 4 steering wheel, whatnot, and they do the thing. You get from place A to B. You can do that kind of in several other cars, but then still some people like to drive a proper cars, and that's not it's not the flashy feature that will make the difference. It's actually that they are doing the driving experience really, really well. And that's what the compliance is here. We are doing those things which actually matter there really, really well, and that's why kind of our customers like our kind of product. It's not the kind of that, okay, we have the flashy screens everywhere and flashy buttons there and there. We do the things that kind of you actually need to run kind of professional online casino. We do those really well.
Jaakko, you're the MD, obviously, of Finnplay and a native of this country. What mistakes have you seen from your neighbouring countries that you've maybe made changes within what you're doing or seeing the market? Would you be able to sort of share anything around that?
Marketing.
Well, yeah, in general, I kind of think that it comes also us to Finns. We are kind of little brother of Sweden. We like to take example of Sweden. There is kind of that also with the iGaming and the proposed new legislation, we are following to some extent Sweden, of course. And that's kind of, are we doing the same mistakes or are we making our own? Most likely both. But I think that as Brian said, everybody is saying that the marketing rules of the legislations are a mistake, that there will be a marketing tsunami coming with the legislation. I think that actually the law is kind of balanced. Not everything is not allowed, but as a licensee holder, the operators need to have a way to kind of communicate that, by the way, we are licensed casino in this country. So, of course, you need to have some kind of marketing. And then, yeah, everybody is speaking about this marketing tsunami, but kind of continuing my car comparison. If at this very moment you are not allowed to market any car brands in Finland, and in January 1st, you would be allowed. Of course, every car brand would be kind of doing their utmost best to be the kind of number one car brand after that opens. So it's not kind of the marketing tsunami that we are expecting. It's not related to iGaming as such. It's just kind of change of legislation, which always kind of changes the let's say the field, and that's why it will be kind of the happening that there will be a lot of iGaming ads on January, February, and March in 27 as the market opens.
And the similar had happened in Sweden and Netherlands and other jurisdictions, and the result is a public backlash. So all of a sudden, every TV commercial, every radio ad, the bus shelters are all gambling. And it becomes a bit overwhelming, and the public kind of doesn't like it. They start to push back, which is actually the reason why had been some rumors about pushing back the opening date for the market, because there's an election in Finland in April of 2027, which is just 4 months after the gambling market will open, and the politicians were a little bit worried about pushback from the people, and that we could already be looking at changes to the legislation just 4 months in. Now, that being said, all the let's say expert prognosticators on the industry at this point are in pretty much agreement that they're going to stick with the January deadline, and that delay is not going to come. But the marketing, the way that it's now been kind of written into the Finnish law, I think it will favor operators with deeper pockets, because mass media marketing is the most expensive. And at the same time, there's a ban on affiliate marketing, which has been the tool of the smaller operators to kind of drive traffic. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the smaller operators need to adapt their strategies, because as we all know, that first year to 2 years of the market opening is when the lion's share of the market share is kind of allocated, and that whoever comes out on top 10 at that point, it's really hard to dethrone them if you come later into the game. So it's super important to be there on day one and have a really good strategy for marketing that plays within the rules that are allowed by the current legislation.
Yeah, I kind of, that's one of the things that kind of I'm kind of even looking forward, because even if you have deep pockets, there is just, there is not just kind of there is limited amount of let's say marketing spots in TV and in other mass medias. And of course, if you don't have that deep pockets, you need to be creative. I'm actually looking forward on seeing how creative kind of you can be within the legislation, what kind of what kind of things we will see on start of 27 on the marketing front. It's kind of it will be just interesting to see, even if we would be outside this industry, would be interesting to see what are the most creative minds in this country can kind of come up with.
Yeah, although they might even come up with loopholes. There, for example, there's digital marketing. What is an affiliate marketer? If you have a banner ad on Helsingin Sanomat, the main newspaper in Finland, well, that's going to be allowed because it's a legacy proper publication. But what's going to be the threshold if you're a very small, locally distributed magazine, but you have an online presence? Is it going to be possible to market on that as long as you're in the print version as well? So there is like a lot of uncertainty in the law, the way it's crafted right now, and I suspect that we'll see a lot of kind of creative efforts to see what is the best strategy when the market opens.
So you're predicting a lot of loopholes here, Brian, yeah? Would or should?
Well, I think there always are, no matter what
course.
market, Finland or otherwise. People are clever and people find ways. And so, yeah, I think that the smaller operators might be kind of more inclined to look for alternate ways because of just the cost involved with doing mass media marketing.
Let's talk a little bit about the B2B and B2C structuring of licenses. Like, how does that structure work? Like, could any of you jump in on that?
Yeah, so B2C license, at the moment it seems that, okay, you can start to apply those on 1st of January 26, most likely like 2nd of January, but anyway, start of January 26. And they come into force, so you can operate with those licenses in 1st of January 27. And then on 1st of January 27, you can start to apply for B2B licenses, and any operator with B2C license can use only suppliers with B2B license from start of January 28. So there is this like 1 year, let's say, transition period before you need a B2B license. If I recall correctly, the law proposal said that it's kind of it's to ensure that, okay, you can be on the market and they can still change the supplier if needed. But then I think that it's also kind of related to the workload of the authorities, that of course there will be a plenty of B2C kind of applications, and then as those have been handled, there will be a kind of B2B applications that are coming.
And this isn't directly related to your question. This is just maybe wishful thinking from us and from other similar suppliers in the industry and operators. It would be nice if the B2B license in Finland in future would be used a little bit more judiciously to control what suppliers are in the market and what aren't. So what we all want is a high channelization rate where the minimum gray market and these kinds of suppliers are allowed to participate in the market. And the B2B license would be an ideal way to kind of control that so that it gives the maximum opportunity for those, let's say, good faith actors like ourselves and the operators who are applying for the B2C license to not have to compete with other operators who go the other way and are still here taking players in Finland, but not paying the taxes and not having to kind of obey any of the marketing regulations and things like that online. So it would be nice if the B2B license would not just be, as it is in some other jurisdictions, which I don't know if I should name, but anyway, just a fee. That, okay, you pay a fee, you put in an application, okay, now you have your B2B license. It's nice. We were hopeful that it will be used in a more enforceable way.
I think that in general, I can see that we have a few B2B licenses, and I can see that the regulators are more active in there, and I'm hopeful on that one.
What are you guys doing at Finnplay to support those technical or standards with the operators you'll be working at soon? Like, can you just, for operators coming in or listening, what are you guys doing there in terms of support?
Of course, our first and foremost job is to make sure that the platform is compliant in the market that we are in. And of course, at the moment, we are checking the Finnish regulation. They are not, let's say, finalized, defined to the last dot, but you can read already a bit on the law on what is coming and understand what are the kind of the biggest issues that we will face during the development. But then on the practical side also we have this idea that we are a platform of cooperation. We believe that kind of it's coming from our Nordic roots. That kind of we believe that by cooperating you make more. For example, we have at the moment 5 operators live in the Netherlands, and what we are doing there is that we are gathering them up kind of twice this year, so that hey, kind of this is the regulation in the Netherlands. This is what we understand that is becoming, and how we will kind of adapt to that, and also get kind of their understanding that okay, what is maybe kind of the crucial points on the legislation that we need to follow and so forth. So kind of we kind of actually make sure that there is a cooperation and there is a buy-in of all our operators. We don't want to that we have a kind of 5 different compliance solutions for Netherlands. We have one compliance solution, and we want to make sure that it works for all of our operators, because of course then they have their own kind of ways on competing against each other in the market, even though we are there on the background. So we kind of we make sure that this cooperation works there and on level playing field.
And that's very unique in this industry, which is, I would say, a very secretive industry in terms of business strategies and things like that. So being able to get 5 competitors knee to knee around a table and to talk about things related to their technology, and it's rare. I don't know if it's been done elsewhere. I have heard of operators getting together to meet with their platform, but usually if that's happening, it's not good news for the platform. Yeah, so we started this. I was skeptical in the beginning, but in fact, it's been extremely well received, and I think it's been super productive for us, and also streamlines all the efforts, because we're all facing the same kind of
that must come down to trust, right? Going back to
it does. Everything's on the table. Everything's exposed. We've got nothing to hide: the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, I recall the first kind of meeting that kind of our head of Netherlands asked from me that okay, what should we present, and I said that let's go for all that. Okay, let's also reveal the things that are not maybe so great on us, because that's a trust. We saw that okay, there are things that we need to improve. There are things that kind of we will improve and so forth. So we are open. We are not hiding anything, and that's, as Brian said, it's different on this industry, and that comes from our, as I said, Nordic roots. Trust and honesty and openness are there, but then it also comes that okay, this is way we want to do the business.
And I don't want to predict anything, but I'm sure we have at least as many brands live in Finland when the market opens, and they can expect that we'll be doing the same. So we'll apply this kind of philosophy and this way of working to the Finnish market as well.
It's very positive the way this is going, but I wanted to throw something out before we finished, and I think this is where a lot of the nuggets will be for our listeners as well. If there is, what challenges do you see here? Like, what do you predict? What might make this tough for certain operators or B2B providers coming to space?
Technically, kind of, as I said, we have been reading the legislation. There is not that much anything special. Of course, working in quite a few regulated jurisdictions, we have seen, so to say, it all. So nothing kind of too special. Of course, you don't need the details of the limits, but we have different limit systems on different regulations or jurisdictions, and we have the self-exclusions for different jurisdictions. So nothing too special. Maybe the, so to say, safe is a bit different. Kind of it's based on the, let's say, proposals. It seems that it will be kind of government hosted, but you need to upload your data there every 30 seconds, and actually the data needs to be signed before uploading. So there is that's maybe from the technical side is the kind of the biggest hurdle to outcome.
I mean, on the commercial side, I think the challenge, you have this challenge in every market, but I think in Finland you'll have a unique blocker coming from the language, that it's just so different, often called the second hardest language in the world to learn. You cannot rely on Google Translate to do your marketing for you. You need to have a native to understand both the translations and also kind of culturally, is it the right kind of message? Because I think that the operator who understands that best is going to win early. If you come in from the outside and try and apply the same kind of marketing you're using in other jurisdictions, I think you're going to struggle.
Yeah, and to add the language, there is this, let's say, I don't know, added challenge, but we also have second official language, which is a bit easier, luckily, Swedish, and kind of law proposal says that you need to have parts of your site in both languages in all the time. So kind of you just cannot come to here and say that, okay, my site is Finnish, it's perfect, but you need to also have rules and regulations and probability of winning and some other things in Swedish as well. So that's kind of, you cannot leave your translations into Finnish.
So 2 languages. So how many languages?
2.
Two languages.
Yeah.
That's a requirement. Okay.
I'm guessing maybe English is not a bad idea either.
Yeah, well, that's just for your English speakers.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
very
there's
good
a-
at English, Brian.
Thank you. As a Canadian, I take that coming from the
Yes, sir.
the colonies as I am. Yeah.
That's a different podcast. Would you guys like to add anything else before I get on my plane? Is there anything else you'd like to cover, go over?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for braving October in Finland. It's not the most touristic time of year to come and visit this country, but maybe it gives you a good flavor of what it's like here for maybe 2/3 of the year. And when you look outside, that this also kind of informs the culture. Because if you grow up in this kind of environment, it creates a certain kind of
You gotta be tough.
attitude.
Yeah, and then it also brings out this Kalsarikännit.
Oh yes, okay. And with that, yeah, this is very good.
Do you know what that is?
No, I don't. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Okay, so that's the Finnish way of spending evenings. It's you're drinking home in your underwear on your sofa with no intention to going out.
I quite like that. Yeah.
That's the Finnish way of spending evenings.
By the
sounds-
way, if nobody's already taken that domain, I think it would be
That's
very
actually
good.
right here.
You should check it right after this podcast.
Before it goes live. Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much for having me. I've been joined with Jaakko, Brian. This is Next.io with Finnplay in Finland. Thanks for joining us.